is what I'm trying to do is create a lesson that we will do when we are together. So, and then I also, if you click on this little guy, it should take you to this. But then I also want to show you, if you're offline, I did create our course on my website. So if you go to my website, drvpaz.com, and you click under courses, you should see an intro to business analytics. Let me pop that in the chat for you all. So bookmark this guy. So I will always, I like redundancy because you never know where students are going to look, and the easier it is for you to find it, the better. So I will be adding, so if you click on this link here, it should take you to the same lesson that I put in D2L as well. So I'm going to try to do this for every class. And basically, let me get out of some of these so I don't drive everybody crazy with all my stuff open. So what I'm going to try to do is give us a little bit more of an interactive. So in this lesson here, I provide, so these right here, let me highlight those for you. So these right here are what coincide with your textbook and pretty much what you'll probably need for your assignments. But then, since I have people from all walks of business, then what I've done, and I may not be able to do this for every class, but I'm trying to add some background information and some premises, because I know some of you in our first time we met were like, well, I have no idea about math. Am I going to get lost in this class, or all sorts of apprehensions that I did not want us to have. So what I did here is give you a bunch of other lessons. So that is what all of these are. But if we go here, let me just click on this one. These are the supplemental lessons. This is what you're going to do when on your own, pretty much, if you need to. So basically, how to ask better questions for critical thinking. Well, critical thinking is what we need to solve business problems. They're not easy, right? They're hard business problems. So, oh wait, I missed a question in the chat. I already registered since last week. Where do I need to submit the code in order to get the discount? You need to, if you registered in Connect last week, which was great, then you need to go ahead and say purchase access in Connect and make sure that you enter the code there. All right, sorry, I missed that. All right, so basically what you're going to do is look through the lesson. Here's a video, and you can go through all of that. And I think, and then once you see this, you'll click on these to see what's all that fun information. And Socratic questions are usually how we like to solve questions in academia, and we don't really go through this process, at least I didn't in business, but then again, you know, we like processes. So basically, and then you can go through these scenarios in here, and if you click through them, it'll tell you about each scenario. So all of these here are basically the lessons that you can do on your own time if you feel like you need them, some activities. These are not graded at all. I didn't scorn them or, import them into, I just added the link in D2L. None of this, if you don't do it, that's fine too. It's whatever you need. And then, how to strengthen your skills of critical thinking, which is usually problem solving. So you'll see all of that. So you can go through all of these supplemental lessons like inductive and deductive reasoning. We're going to talk about the various types of analytics. This will help. And reasoning is where we get in trouble when we're thinking about data analytics. How reliable is your information? We're going to talk about relevance and reliability today of information. And from an accounting perspective, those are our statement of financial accounting concepts. So that's our fundamental qualitative characteristics of our analysis, and that transcends into most areas of business. And presenting data, this is where your visualization skills will come in. Now, if you need more background, let's say, okay, Dr. Paz, I'm like super duper lost, like what the heck is going on here? Then my recommendation is to also go under courses and go under data analytics in accounting, because I also have a bunch of information there as well. Some of this will be additional information for you when we get to talk about the different analytical perspectives like financial statement analytics in our course. This will come in handy. So if you click on that little box, again, you'll get another course like this, and you'll get information that I presented as well. And so like liquidity ratios, just a bunch of information. So if you're not an accountant, it's okay. But I do try to provide a bunch of information that will hopefully help along the way. So let me pop this in the chat as well. So these are probably the 2 courses on my website or information that might help you. For our class, I'll usually add whatever we're going to be working on in D2L as you see here. Okay. Let me stop sharing. How are we doing? We're good? All right, cool. Let's keep going because we want to get you home. Well, you're probably already home, but we want to get you done. Perfect. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything in the chat. All right. So for our class today, we're going to click on this link here, and it should hopefully take you, let me do that again, to our lesson. Now, we're not going to do all of this. I'm basically going to have you read some of this on your own and do some things, but we're going to focus in class on these, and anything supplemental is for your additional information. And I'll try to do this every class. Depending on what we do, we'll have different activities. But the key point, and so if you want to, another good thing right now would be to download the PowerPoint slides. So what I did, I hate death by PowerPoint, and I also hate death by discussions. So what I did is, as you'll see when I go through here, I added the slides that I thought were the most important, or if it was something that I wanted to cover, I added it in here. And the reason I did that is last semester when I was teaching AIS and using this type of modality and lesson planning, or just kind of ways to keep it more interactive, especially for a 3-hour class, that I'm not just a talking head to you, so you're doing things too. This is how I did it.
I got a quick.
Oh, yes, what's up?
So where can we find the link for where you at right now?
Oh, sure. So right here, click in our class, and then under module 2, so always click on learning modules because that's where we'll be every week, no problem. And then under module 2, and you'll see the dates. I tried to put the dates in if I didn't make a mistake. And then right here is where I'm at. This date, if you click on this link, It should take you to this information.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, no problem. Ask away. Awesome. I get excited. Awesome. All right. And then the other piece that you may want to download are these slides, because basically what I did is integrate into here what I kind of want to cover to make sure I maximize our time, and to make sure that, and then also just paying attention to what students have told me in the past. If I put it all in here, it was easier, because sometimes I would go back and forth and students were like, it's kind of crazy, you go too fast, because I get excited, but always slow me down and always ask me questions. Okay, so let's get started. So business value, right? My favorite. A company earns revenues, right? Basically, they're taking what they have, whether it's services provided by workers, or it's building an equipment, or it's raw materials that they're converting into a product, and they're hopefully going to get this valuable output that they sell. And so that is your definition of business value, which is basically any item, event, or interactions that determine financial health. So much accounting and finance, and most we add to, let's say, the balance sheet as an asset employees. And HR, for example, my HR reps and my HR majors would say that's a huge asset of any organization. So, but the key is to know business value, right? And basically, we want to know some measures of business value. And so what do you think are some of those measures of business value? If you can type it in the chat. How would you, how would you measure a business's value? Could be employees, like I said, or what else? Long-term profitability. God bless you, Dave. Love it. And long-term, excellent. Didn't say short-term. Wonderful. Profitability is the #1 measure for most organizations because it's all about the bottom line, right? Revenues minus expenses is your profits. Revenues are the money you make. Expenses are what you spend, just like in your own house, right? You make money from a salary and you have to pay your mortgage, your car payment, your insurance, yada, yada, yada. Excellent. Any other growth potential? Love that, Amos. Yeah, maybe market growth, maybe market acquiring information, right? Like recently we had Microsoft that is acquiring the Chat GPT. I think it's called OpenAI. Oh, that's a good polling question. I'll have to ask. Fixed assets increase in value. Excellent, James. I appreciate that. Lovely. Reputation. Oh, lovely. Yes, that's also important, right? Especially with data breaches now, reputation, cyber attacks, reputations can be breached. Wonderful. Excellent. So all fabulous answers and all true, and it all depends. Oh, positive cash flows. Oh, I love that. That's either free cash flows or operating cash flows. So free cash flows is a measure that's often used in finance, and operating cash flows, that's what we use in accounting. Either way, right, is important, right? Because if you don't have money, cash is king, we all say in business. Awesome, excellent. Increased revenue. Yes, without revenue, David, we can't get anywhere. Agreed. Love it. See, revenue after my own heart. Awesome. So when we have availability of data, right, the more data we have, the harder the role of the business analyst. So here's some tidbits from your textbook. So there is now a zettabyte, right? So we used to have quintibytes. Now we have zettabytes. And right now in 2010, we had 1 zettabyte. By 2025, which is what, 2 bloody years away, we should have 175 zettabytes. So data is constantly increasing, as you see here, right? And so with this access of data comes additional challenges, right? So the more data we have, then there could be positive. We have a lot of data, so it's hopefully going to help us to make decisions. It's hopefully going to help managers. It's going to give us insights. It's going to give us trends, or it can all go to hell in a handbasket and we could not use it. And data overload is a key issue. And I think every profession suffers from that. So right here, when you see the analytics mindset here, pay attention, because I've given you in this document additional, so we're going to come back to this later on. But just keep in mind your analytics mindset, and I give you a different lesson. I created a cyber forensic accounting class that I added this to, and I'll show you where that is on my website, and I added it in here. But just think about the analytical mindset as what you have to do now as an employee in business, right? So what businesses are looking for is how well can you answer these business questions? How are you addressing it? How are you getting the data? And how are you analyzing that data and then reporting the results? Another key item here with the data is what we call ETL, extract, transform, and load. We extract the data from usually an accounting information systems or some type of information system. MIS could be one of them too. We transform that data and load it into a software like IDEA, for example. Perfect. Then we have the role of a business analyst, right? Which is basically you're curating this data to hopefully make a decision at the end of the day. Easier said than done, I'll be the first to tell you. So what I've done here is, for those of you that are comfortable in this format, I've added the slides in here for you so that you could see the business value that I discussed and the business process, which we'll go over. If you're not comfortable and you're happy and you want to take notes somewhere else, then these are the same slides that we have in the PowerPoint one. So the key to this particular slide here is to note your business process, right? So basically you need some type of business process, whether it's activities, people, equipment, any of the sort, to be able to create that business value. And then we have some examples here. One of my favorites, DoorDash, right? You know, they have drivers and those are their contractors. They make deliveries. Tesla, I mean, I'm a huge Elon Musk fan. So, you know, he can sell his vehicles in China. It is becoming increasingly difficult because, you know, the Chinese market is a bit volatile now, but anyhow. And then you see the same chart I gave you earlier about the increase of data and the definition of a business analyst as well. So that's that piece. All right, so now we have a progress check. So how does increasing the amount of data to address business questions both help and hinder the analyst's role? And then if you hit continue, you see the result there. So let me stop. How are we doing? We're still awake? Oh, more than perfect. David, barely I see. Did the twins keep you up? I don't see a happy face. Hang in there, buddy. Hang in there. All right. So let's keep going because then we'll do something. All right. So we have data and information. So if you click each of these, you'll see that data is just your raw numbers and facts, right? By itself, you can't really do anything, but you want to turn that data into information. And the way you do that is you try to organize it in some fashion that is useful or hopefully meaningful to the person that's going to decide. The key to information is the context in which you are presenting it, right? So what setting is it in? You're going to present information differently to the board of directors or an audit committee than you possibly would to an employee meeting. So that's the key there, is to understand how the data is going to be fully understood within the context in which you're trying to present it. And as a CFO, that's a skill, let me tell you, because for the board, you have to do one thing, for employees, you have to do another, for the bank, you may have to do another. So just keep that in mind. It's the same data, it's just how you're using it to adhere to different groups. So we talk about business value, now we want to talk about information value, right? And so the key is you want to take this information, whether it's events, and you want to take it from the data collection to compiling it in such a format that you can use it to make decisions. So what this does is it tells you your data, which is just your raw facts. Let me highlight this here for you so you can see what I'm doing. So you have your raw facts, then you have your context, right? The setting or the situation in which you are presenting it. Hopefully you're going to take that data and turn it into information. So you're going to organize it, combine it with the context, see how you do. Hopefully by the time you get information, you'll have some knowledge. And then eventually that knowledge hopefully leads to decisions. And still at this decision point, you may or may not make the right decision, but at least you've hopefully done it in this systematic process of converting data to information, to knowledge to make those decisions. Okay, so first order of business, we are going to look at Tide Pods. So we use these in my house, and we're going to see what happened here. So here we have a value chain and a data dump of a full year of Instagram posts and Twitter tweets. So without context, right, this would be data, right? These posts and tweets would be data. But now if we give you a context, like you're a business analyst, right, for Procter & Gamble, P&G, and the brand manager for Tide wants to understand how social media users feel about the product, right? So to provide relevant information, you need to identify those Instagram posts and tweets and how they relate to the Tide Pods. So analysis of this information may lead to new knowledge about their customer preferences and maybe like product features. And maybe this brand manager can use this to make a decision if they want to change the packaging design, right? So social media users may have objected to the pod's large plastic container because it doesn't have an environmental impact. And so how does the data may ultimately lead Procter & Gamble to begin selling maybe these Tide Pods in environmentally conscientious packaging. So P&G may make other decisions based on the data gathered from social media. So for example, if these social media posts complain about the price of Tide, because it's considered a premium product, maybe the managers may decide to develop a budget version of these Tide Pods. So they may also try to focus on internet promotions and coupons rather than like any type of coupons in newspapers or magazines. Now, there's two schools of thought here. Is Twitter and Instagram tweets data? Let me stop sharing. What do you think? Is it data? Yes or no? I think, let me see,
Yes.
Yes, okay, we got it, yes. Good, anybody else? Qualitative data, yes, yes, yes. As much to the dismay of this accountant and finance and more economics person, you're absolutely right. That is some type of data. Problem for most quantitative disciplines like accounting, finance, and economics, we don't think that data is really relevant and reliable a lot of the times, but it's still considered data. So when you look at this case in comparison to the value chain, you see the data is the data dump of those Instagram and tweets, right? The context here is your Tide Pods, right? So we're going through each of the steps to see that. So your data dump is your posts. Your context is the actual that we really only care about this particular brand. The information is we want to see consumer sentiment. So for those HR or management individuals, consumer sentiment becomes important. From an accounting and finance, most of the time we don't care about consumer sentiment, right? We leave it to you guys. And then the knowledge, hopefully we can take any planned marketing campaigns and see whatever the customers are saying about the Tide Pods and use that to our advantage. And then the decisions, are we going to participate in this marketing or this R&D? Are we going to participate in possibly, creating a more, conscientious packaging because customers don't like that? That's what we're trying to see. It could be if a political survey would take place like it does on CNN. It's true, it could be. You're absolutely right. Oh my goodness, CNN. There's so many things, Love, but absolutely. Thank you. I love it. Awesome. So let's continue. So hopefully that makes sense. So now this is an activity that you can do on your own because I want to make sure, but you could look at, if you actually look at social media posts, you could see if there's any trends around anything regarding, like, is it price? Is it product quality? Is it the different aspects of the product? Or what recommendations would you make? How would you emphasize the safer use of Tide Pods? Because remember, there were some headlines that children were getting it and eating it because it looked like candy. Hell yeah, it depends. Exactly. So if you are looking at social media information, and depending on what you see, you would take a course of action. So now, if you've been on social media today, because I'm sure we all have, anything that has sparked from social media that might be, might lead us to some of this analytics. Anything that we saw, or even that we saw in the news today, right? I've made a concerted effort to avoid social media. Oh, God bless you. That is lovely. I love
I think I did see like a commercial recently where they had like a mom doing laundry and the baby was like going to like knock over the box of the Tide Pods, and they were talking about their safer packaging. Not social media, but it was like a television commercial about like their efforts to make their packaging safer so that kids can't get in it.
Awesome. Yeah, that did come because of public outrage. And actually, the backstory to that is, yeah, they found out about it, and they were actually Tide was Procter & Gamble was criticized because they didn't act quickly enough. They had known about it because they have web crawlers that scour all the social media sites with the names, and Google Analytics does a really good job of kind of, you can run a lot of queries through Google Analytics to see what is out there, and then to see what's happening. And they were criticized, Procter & Gamble, for basically knowing and not coming outright and saying anything or doing anything. So interesting. Thank you. So just something to consider when we're not in class. And then we have our business analyst, right? So basically, if you are a decision maker or a manager, you need keywords here: relevant and reliable. Right? You need reliable and relevant information so that you can turn that data into information and into knowledge so that you can make decisions. And then what we have here are the decision maker. What you need is knowledge, right? The business analyst is hopefully that intermediary that's taking either from the data scientist's technical language and then putting it into plain English. And that's where visualizations come in a lot in business. And so basically the business analyst is the person who knows the data and also knows how to communicate the data. And so you have a data scientist. Now, there is a lot of debate now in the business world that data science, like more and more accountants find it, more and more business people are becoming data scientists. So that's another school of thought. And then the data scientist is basically, they do a lot with more statistics, and they do a lot with kind of programming languages. So then when we come here, we see the decision maker, right? So here, and then here's the business analyst that's hopefully going back and forth between the developer, the program developer, the SQL developer, the SAS, the Python, the R programmer, and retrieving the data. The analyst takes a look at it, and then bingo, hopefully gives that information to the decision maker so that they hopefully can make the right decision and make the company more money, because money is king, right? So that's where we get this business analytics. That is what you guys all signed up for, right? So you're hopefully going to take this data, make it knowledge, draw conclusions, and then answer all of these business questions. So this is the key activity we're going to do today. So in your textbook and chapters, you're going to see each of the disciplines. So we have marketing, finance, ops, and accounting. Of course, I left accounting last. But basically, for those of you in marketing, hopefully, right, promoting and selling the product is what they're doing. And then we have marketing analytics that is hopefully helping to go to that market performance. And somebody mentioned that business value is through growth, right? That could be market growth or market share. And so this analytics is hopefully going to give us those customer preferences and trends. And we saw customer sentiment earlier. And then we have finance, right? So here it's all about managing the money, whether you're investing, borrowing, you're budgeting, you're forecasting, all that fun stuff. So here what we're trying to do is measure financial performance. And actually, some of the items that you mentioned earlier, like free cash flows and operating cash flows, long-term profitability, those could all be proxies for that financial performance. So, or we could do ROI, right? Return on investments, like in new equipment or the buyback period, all that great stuff. Now for ops, think if you're in supply chain or if you're in IT or HR or logistics or distribution, we kind of all put that in under operations, right? And this is pretty much the bread and butter of the organization, right? It's like what you need to run the day-to-day business to generate that income or that revenue. And here you're looking for keywords here are efficiency and effectiveness, right? How quickly can we make the product? How effectively can we do it? Can we lower our gross margin or our cost of goods sold? But more importantly, can we get the right product at the right place at the right time to the right people is the key. So, and this is where probably most of our data analytics takes place in terms of operations. And so if you are majoring in HR or MIS or supply chain, you're going to go into the ops breakout room. And then accounting, because that's where my first love is, right? Here, basically anything you do in marketing, finance, or operations, at the end of the day, the accountants have to record it, right? And basically we have to tell you what all those transactions are and give you that financial performance. And we have to make sure we're doing it according to generally accepted accounting principles, make sure that we're being audited if we're publicly traded. And unfortunately, Uncle Sam wants his taxes, okay? So what we're going to do, so we're going to get into breakout rooms because we're in Zoom, of course, and you are going to join a breakout room based on your major. Now, if you don't want to, if you want to learn about something else, that's fine too. You just have to pick one breakout room and you're going into there and you're going to come back with 2 or 3 ways in which you're going to use data analytics in either accounting or in operations or in finance or in marketing to answer a business question. So for example, let's say you're in finance, forecasting or budgeting, right, is one of them. You see every single time in the SE, like you see earnings calls, right? And if a company doesn't meet earnings, then usually their stock price goes down. So what type of analytics would you do in order to make sure that that doesn't happen? Or what can you do in operations? Is it improving the production process? Or is it hiring less labor or inquiring about more high quality raw materials? So that is what we're going to do. Is everybody okay with that? Let me stop sharing. Cool. You know, and that just year over year comparison across accounts, comparison just overall, comparison to percentages, all of that is definitely what we eat, breathe, live in accounting. So music to my ears. Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So let me go back and then we're almost done. So that way you can be on your way, because I know, I have to learn to give breaks. I'm so bad because I get so excited with this stuff. So the last few pieces that I have here for you is basically, so this analytics mindset, E&Y is Ernst & Young. So it's called the Big Four auditing firm. Used to be the Big 8, used to be the Big 6. And so back in the day, I was part of the Big 6. I worked for Arthur Andersen. And so these accounting and advisory firms are pretty much who do the audits. And so E&Y has done an extensive job of creating this analytical mindset. And it's basically, that's what hopefully helps us to answer these business questions. So if you click on this link right here, it should take you to the data analytics lesson that I created based off of this analytical mindset on my website. So you can go through that and see all of the information. And I also have it within the lesson as well. And if you see here, you can click on it and it will tell you, and you'll see here, and then it'll tell you if you're correct. I also have a video here from Forbes that talks about that analytical mindset that you can look at after class. And then I have here all of the resources, the slides from EMY, their lecture notes, which goes into details, and then just the whole framework. So you can download those and keep it so that you can just start getting into the habit of like thinking like an analyst. And it's an acquired skill. And then the SOAR model is basically you want to specify the question, obtain the data, analyze the data, and then report the results. And this reporting of the results is what we're doing now more and more with visualizations. And so here you see the PowerPoint slides that coincide with the SOAR model. And then it's basically giving us some sample business questions. So we talked about like customer demographics. If you want to purchase a copier, what analysis would you do? If you want to have lead ordering deadlines for Christmas or times, delivery times, product lead times, Chinese tariffs, what impact that will have on Walmart, and health insurance rates. And so then it goes through here, the different types of analytics. So each business problem gives us information towards how we can solve them, right? So descriptive, what happened? Diagnostic, what the heck happened? Why did it happen, right? Predictive, that's where you're going into the forecasting and into the budgeting. What is hopefully going to happen in the future? And then prescriptive, well, what action do we need to take on to get to the expected outcome? And then adaptive, like how are we going to adapt our system? Oops, sorry, let me go back up to that to make that happen. And then you see here what you need for each of the steps, right? You want to make sure that you're obtaining the correct data. You also want to identify the data to correct. And that's the key. Whatever question you're trying to answer, make sure that the data variables that you're using, your proxies, are what you're trying to answer. And then here, what I like is that when you're looking at descriptive statistics, hindsight, which is what I think Megan told us that example, that's what we're doing, right? We're doing this descriptive statistics here. Like, okay, we're looking what happened year over year. Why did this go up? Why did that go down? And then you're trying to do the diagnostic, that why. Then, all right, let's use this information now to predict, get that foresight to see, okay, maybe can we correct this in the future if we didn't hit our revenue target? And then we have the right side, which is basically that prescriptive and adaptive. What can we keep doing to make sure that we get to the numbers that we want? Obviously, reporting the results, whether they're to shareholders, audit committee, board members, employees, you name it, the bank. And then the overall model just keeps going. And so then you have relevant and reliable data, right? So you want to make sure it's relevant to the question that you're asking and reliable, making sure that there is no bias. So, and then data integrity, we want to make sure it's accurate, valid, consistent, and hopefully we can use it. And there are several robustness tests that we can do to get to that data integrity. And then here you can see, and we have, I think this is our last activity for the night, is Hershey loses access to reliable data to fulfill Halloween orders. So basically, we have a faulty implementation of the new information systems, and then Hershey couldn't trust the data that was provided. It wasn't reliable. So they were not able to deliver the right amount of candy to all of their outlets. And they lost, can you believe that? $150 million in Halloween candy. And one manager noted that the company had a real problem with inventory accuracy and a lot of time that they didn't have the right inventory at the right place according to their records. And so then this is unreliable information and it had an impact on their bottom line. And so how might Hershey have worked around that problem of in the short term and in the long term? Had parallels to the science. Oh, look at that. I noticed that this had parallels to the scientific method. The SOAR method, absolutely done on purpose. So I think we're running short on time. So I won't have you do the Jamboard access because I want to let you go early, of course, because I give you a lot of things to do. But if you can go after class and do that, maybe we can pick up on that on the next time. And then the last piece is just your data visualizations here, which is basically where you're either doing, you're trying to do exploratory and explanatory, right? You're trying to explore where you're trying to find that insight, or explanatory, where you're trying to actually report the results and explain what happened. And typically we in accounting tend to be explanatory, and more in marketing, I would say, can be in exploratory. And then here you see a graph that was in your textbook, but that one data point, that outlier that created headaches. And this was actually a study of the returns on market value. So net present value, market value, and we use the Black-Scholes method a lot of the times to get that. So you'll see that there. And then you have the different charts that you can use for the data. And if in doubt, I will say, if we go back to my data analytics course here, and let me just show you this really quickly. I think in this introduction to data analytics course, here, this is just an overview because I give you about the B's of big data. I do believe in here I have how to choose the best graph. Give me 1 second, because that's a great video that that based on your data, what do you have to choose? I'm not sure if I have it in here. Probably not. No, it's in one of these. I don't know which one. I'll have to find it, but it's basically, maybe it's financial reporting visualizations. Give me 1 minute. Let me see here if I have it in there. Here, choosing in this one, choosing the best chart for your data. And so there's also, I think, information in there as well that might be helpful. All right. And then we have, I think we covered all of those. Yeah, we did them all. So that's just the key to see what you're going to do, how you're going to present your data. So all of these other ones are your supplemental lessons. So I know I